Imagine sitting down at your favorite burger joint, the smell of grilled meat filling the air. The first bite is rich, flavorful, almost too good. But what if that delicious meal had a secret? What if the hands that prepared it had done more than just cook? In a quiet Florida town, a chef built a reputation on mouth-watering burgers and an unmatched secret recipe. People came from miles away, never questioning what made them so different. But behind that kitchen door, there were things no one was meant to see. And when someone got too close to the truth, they didn't make it out alive. This is the story of a man who fed a town something they never expected, and the one person who could have stopped him until she became the next item on the menu. Would anyone really notice if they had been served something unnatural? Let us know in the comments, and stay right here, because what happens next will make you question every meal you've ever eaten. In the heart of a quiet Florida town, there's a place that's been serving up the best burgers for years. No flashy signs, no big marketing gimmicks. Just a small, unassuming spot where the locals line up, drawn in by the promise of something special. Mackenzie's Grill isn't just a restaurant. It's a tradition. Families gather, truckers make it a regular stop, and tourists who stumble upon it never forget the taste. There's something about the way the meat melts in the mouth, the richness of the flavor, the way every bite feels like a secret that only those who have eaten here would understand. Behind the counter, Michael Dante stands with his signature smile. Polite, welcoming, always remembering a face. He greets customers by name, asks about their families, makes them feel at home. A man who seems to love his craft, who treats cooking like an art. But behind those warm handshakes and friendly conversations, there's a rule he never breaks. No one is allowed past the kitchen door. To the town, he's just a hard-working chef. To those who look a little closer, the questions start to pile up. Before opening the grill, he worked as a butcher, spending years perfecting the way a knife glides through flesh. There were stories, whispers really, about an unnatural fascination with certain kinds of meat. But stories fade, and rumors die out when there's nothing solid to prove them. Then there are the disappearances. A hitchhiker who was last seen walking in this direction, a drifter who mentioned picking up a dishwashing job here, an employee who quit suddenly and was never heard from again. All written off as people who moved on, changed towns, started over. No one ever made the connection. But there's one thing that doesn't add up. For a place that serves hundreds of burgers a week, there aren't many meat deliveries. Suppliers drop off buns, vegetables, condiments, but not much beef. The receipts don't lie. The question is, where does the meat come from? Most never think to ask, but someone did, and the moment she started looking for answers, she signed her own death certificate. Sophia Dante never planned on coming back. College was supposed to be her escape, a fresh start away from the small town, away from the long hours at the restaurant, away from a father she could never fully understand. But life has a way of pulling people back to the places they swore they'd never return to. At 19, she finds herself back behind the counter of Mackenzie's Grill, taking orders, flipping chairs at closing time, scrubbing the same grease-stained floors she grew up around. The smell of meat clings to the walls, the knives glisten under the kitchen lights, and the freezer hums steadily in the back. A familiar rhythm in a place that has barely changed. But something feels different now. She notices things she never did before, the way her father always keeps the back storage locked, the way deliveries come in, but certain ingredients never seem to leave the boxes, the way he tenses up whenever she steps too close to the kitchen's far corner. Then comes the night that changes everything. The restaurant is empty. The last table has been wiped down, the cash register closed, the doors locked. Michael steps out for a smoke, leaving her alone to finish closing. That's when she notices it. The door to the back storage, slightly ajar. She hesitates, glancing toward the entrance. He never leaves that door open. Never. The air feels colder as she steps inside. Boxes of supplies line the walls, stacked neatly. Shelves hold vacuum-sealed packages, but not the kind she's used to seeing. Then, at the far end of the room, something catches her eye. A freezer, large, industrial, the kind that could hold an entire side of beef. Only, they never stored their meat here. Her fingers hesitate on the latch. A deep breath. Then she pulls. The door swings open. The cold air hits her first, sharp against her skin. But what's inside is far worse. Vacuum-sealed bags. Not just one or two, dozens. each one carefully labeled, not with cuts of meat, but with names, dates. Her stomach turns as she reaches for the nearest bag. Through the clear plastic, she sees something that doesn't belong in any kitchen. Fingers. Her breath catches. Her hands shake as she pulls back another package, this one larger, heavier. A torso, butchered with precision, the cuts too clean, too deliberate. Then, on the shelf beside it, a container. Black lettering scrawled across the lid. Special blend. The realization hits her like a blow to the chest. The whispers, the rumors, the unspoken questions. They weren't just stories. Her father's secret ingredient had never been a mystery. It had been people. Her heart pounds in her ears. Her stomach churns. A cold sweat forms on her skin. She stumbles back, knocking over a crate, the crash echoing through the storage room. And then a shadow moves in the doorway. She spins, her pulse hammering. Michael Dante stands there, watching, silent, unblinking. His daughter has seen too much. And now, there's only one way this ends. But what happens next is something so twisted, so unthinkable, it would make even the most hardened investigators recoil in horror. The moment stretches between them, heavy, unspoken. The air in the storage room is cold, but Sophia's skin burns. Her chest rises and falls in short, panicked breaths. The man in front of her, the one who raised her, who taught her how to ride a bike, who tucked her in at night, is no longer her father. He is something else, something she was never supposed to see. Her fingers tighten around her phone, her voice shakes, but the words come fast, sharp. "I'm going to the police. This ends now." Michael steps forward, hands raised, voice low, steady. He tells her to listen, that it isn't what she thinks, that she's making a mistake. But she already knows the truth. She has seen it with her own eyes. Her legs move before she can think. The phone is in her hands, her fingers pressing against the screen, dialing. She doesn't make it past the doorway. A hard crack echoes through the kitchen. Sophia's body jerks. Her phone slips from her grasp, clattering onto the tile. For a split second, she is weightless. Then she crumples. Silence. Michael stands over her, his breath uneven, his grip tightening around the heavy metal meat tenderizer in his hand. His daughter lies motionless at his feet. A thin stream of red pools beneath her head, spreading across the floor, seeping into the cracks. His fingers tremble, his jaw clenches. "I loved you, but you left me no choice." For the first time in years, he feels something he hasn't felt before. Regret? Fear? No. Something worse. What he does next is beyond comprehension, even for a man like him. The body lies still on the kitchen floor, the warmth fading from her skin. The phone that could have saved her sits just inches away, the screen still lit. But there are no second chances now. No way to undo what has been done. Michael Dante doesn't move at first. He stands over her, staring, breath slow and heavy. His hands flex at his sides, coated in something warm, something familiar. He exhales through his nose, then closes his eyes. And then, without hesitation, he gets to work. The knives are already there. They always are. Razor sharp, perfectly balanced, tools of a trade he mastered long ago. The first cut is precise, controlled. The next is cleaner, smoother. His hands know what to do, muscle memory guiding every motion. Flesh separates from bone, tendons snap under the practiced flick of steel. The process is methodical, efficient. The same steps he has followed for years, the same care he gives to every piece of meat that has passed through his hands. Only this time, it is different. This time, the cuts are too familiar. Piece by piece, she disappears, reduced to what the world will recognize, ground, seasoned, blended to perfection. By morning, the kitchen is spotless. The evidence is gone, wiped away as if she was never there. The only thing left of Sophia Dante is what sits neatly packaged in the freezer, waiting to be served. The doors of Mackenzie's Grill open like they do every day. Customers file in, eager, hungry. The lunch rush begins, and the kitchen hums with activity. The special today? A new blend. Richer, more tender, a taste no one can quite place, but one they won't soon forget. They take their bites, sigh with satisfaction. Compliments pour in, forks scrape against plates, napkins wipe away the last traces of red. At the counter, Michael Dante smiles, wiping his hands on a towel, listening to the praise. And outside, a missing person poster flutters against a telephone pole. The face on it is familiar, but no one in that restaurant will ever know just how close they are to the girl they once greeted every day. Because today, she isn't missing. She's right there, on their plates. Days pass. The restaurant stays busy. Customers keep coming, laughing over their meals, licking the grease from their fingers. The special blend is a hit. No one questions the change. No one wonders why Sophia hasn't been seen. Life moves forward, as it always does. But some people are asking questions. A former employee watches from a distance, uneasy. He remembers the way Michael always guarded the back storage, how deliveries never matched what was being sold. He had let it go before, not this time. Then there's the ex-wife, a woman who once stood by his side, who knew him better than most. She had always sensed something he kept buried beneath that polished charm. She remembers the job offer she once gave him, a high-paying corporate position in real estate marketing, a fresh start, a way out. He turned it down without hesitation. Not because he loved the restaurant, because he couldn't leave it. A man doesn't walk away from 5 times his salary unless what he's holding on to is worth far more. The police take the calls. A missing girl, a restaurant with whispers attached to its name, a man who has lived too comfortably in his secrecy. The pieces begin to form a picture, and it's enough to warrant a closer look. When they enter Mackenzie's grill, it's business as usual. Customers at tables, the sizzle of meat on the grill, the air thick with the smell of cooked flesh. Michael greets them, wiping his hands on a towel, offering that same easy smile. Then they step into the back. The kitchen is clean, immaculate. But when they reach the storage room, when they pull open the freezer, the truth spills out in plastic-wrapped horrors. Names, dates, flesh carved with the precision of a man who has spent his life perfecting the craft. A silence falls over the restaurant. Officers move in. Cuffs tighten around his wrists. Michael Dante is led away, but he never fights, never speaks a word in his defense. At trial, the courtroom is packed. The details are laid bare, the evidence undeniable. Testimonies paint a picture of a man who turned his profession into something monstrous. A chef, a butcher, a killer. The sentence is handed down. Life in prison, no parole. But there is one question he never answers. How many people had he served? How many meals had been eaten without suspicion? And the most terrifying part? Some of those customers may have never known they were eating human meat. Imagine taking that last bite, licking the grease from your fingers, pushing back your plate with satisfaction, only to realize later that what you just ate wasn't what you thought it was. How many times have people walked into a restaurant, placed an order, and trusted that what they were served was exactly what was on the menu? No questions, no second guesses. But after hearing the story, could they ever be sure again? What would you do if your favorite spot was hiding a secret like this? Would you report it? Would you even want to know? Let us know in the comments. And if you made it this far, hit like to support the channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story we have for you, it's even darker than this one.